You know, your calm is so weak. I need a man who fights for things. Jennifer said it with a clink of her wine glass, half laughing, half serious, like it was some charming critique wrapped in silk. Her family laughed, too quickly, too eagerly. Her brother Tyler smirked and muttered something about beta energy under his breath. Her mother winced and looked down at her napkin. Her father didn't even pretend to hide the smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. And I just nodded, carved the last piece of roast from the bone. I hear you, I said quietly. What else was there to say? It was Jennifer's birthday, after all. The roast had been perfect. Hours of marination, seasoning, slow cooking. The kind of preparation I used to do for underwriting presentations when I still believed in impressing people. But tonight, I was the entertainment. The harmless, domesticated man they could prod for amusement. A 61-year-old calm placeholder who knew better than to raise his voice during a toast. I smiled politely as I cleared the plates, piled them neatly, brought out the cake she ordered herself. One of those expensive ones with edible gold flakes and a price tag high enough to insult common sense. Everyone cooed over it, took their photos, posted it to their stories. I stood in the corner of my own kitchen like a museum docent watching strangers take selfies in front of a sculpture I built with my bare hands. She kissed my cheek before blowing out the candles. Thanks, honey. You're still good for something. I didn't blink. They left around 9:45. Her dad gave me that firm two-pat handshake men give each other when one of them's already lost, but still pretending not to know it. Her brother asked if I needed help taking out the trash. I said no. I've been doing it for years. Jennifer went upstairs to take a bath. I know what that meant. Lock the door, scroll through her phone, and maybe text someone who knows how to fight for things. I went into the study. Not the main one where I kept my work laptop. This one was smaller, quieter. I hadn't used it since we refinanced the house 2 years ago. I turned the brass key on the desk drawer and opened it slowly. Inside, still wrapped in the same manila folder with the original clip, was the loan packet. Joint guarantor agreement. The header read. My name was first, then hers, then the boutique's LLC. She had needed seed money, $740,000 to expand her lifestyle brand into multiple storefronts across Tennessee and Georgia. I wasn't thrilled, but I wanted to be supportive. I remember the pitch she gave me, vision boards, mock-ups, a color palette inspired by sun-washed femininity. I had smiled, signed, and told myself she'd finally found something to pour her energy into besides criticizing mine. What I hadn't told her was that I negotiated a caveat, a clause, one I added discreetly with the bank's legal department before the final version was notarized. Section 6.2. Guarantor may revoke participation upon presentation of reputational harm or breach of moral conduct. No, she didn't read the fine print. She never did. Jennifer skimmed things, assumed control, delegated detail. She believed in impressions, not mechanisms. That was always her weakness. That, and mistaking silence for surrender. I flipped to the back page. My signature, clear and dated. Below it, a time-stamped receipt from Legacy First Savings. I remember the banker, a man named Harlan, had paused after I initialed that clause. You sure you want this? If she ever finds out. She won't, I said, but I want an exit hatch, just in case her ambition becomes a wrecking ball. He nodded. And here we were, 2 years later, in the aftermath of a roast dinner turned slow implosion. Her birthday cake knife still sat on the counter, crusted with icing and gold dust. Her laughter still echoed in the walls she assumed were hers now. The same walls she'd collateralized behind my back before I saw the amended loan summary in our quarterly mailer. And the kicker? She didn't even hide it. She just assumed I wouldn't understand it. She assumed I was weak. I sat in that chair and stared at the folder for a full 10 minutes. No music, no distractions, just the buzz of a cheap ceiling fan and the ticking of the old wall clock she called ugly but sentimental. Then, with a calm that clearly disappointed her so much, I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in over 18 months. Harlan answered on the third ring. James, he said, voice groggy. It's late. Everything all right? I'd like to discuss withdrawal of guarantee under Section 6.2. I said, my voice as dry as parchment. There was silence on the other end. Then a slow exhale. Okay, he said. You got the paperwork? I do. I'll prep the termination documents. You'll need to sign in person. You'll want to move fast, though. Default kicks in automatically once the guarantee is withdrawn. She won't see it coming. No, I said, still staring at the folder. She won't. I hung up, returned the folder to the drawer, locked it. Upstairs, I could hear the water running in the bathroom. She was humming something. probably thought she'd won the night. But she hadn't noticed the one thing that mattered. The man she mocked for being calm was about to bring the house down. Quietly, I sat in the car the next morning, parked in the far end of the strip mall lot Jennifer once called her empire in the making. The boutiques were still there, sun-bleached vinyl decals in cursive fonts, fake boxwood wreaths hanging on glass doors that hadn't seen real foot traffic since the pandemic. Curated, she used to say, elegant but accessible. I looked at the window of her flagship store, the one she sunk nearly half the loan into renovating, and thought about the time she proudly called it her forever space. Then she asked if I could cover payroll for just 2 months while the business stabilized. That was 18 months ago. I had covered 14. The folder sat open in the passenger seat. Yellow post-it notes marking the clauses I'd revisited last night. Page 4, section 6.2. The clause no one had argued about when it was added because Jennifer never bothered to read it. She was too busy picking out the color of her office wall paint and hiring a photographer to take candid pictures of her pretending to work in heels she couldn't walk in. $740,000. I stared at the number on the original loan summary and felt my jaw tighten. She hadn't told me about the collateralization of the house until after the signatures were filed, just casually dropped it in between bites of her acai bowl one Sunday morning. By the way, the bank suggested using the house as collateral. It's just paperwork. Not like it matters. I remember setting my coffee down slower than usual. So you used the house without asking? I included the house, she said, chewing. Don't make it a whole thing, James. It's just a formality. No, it wasn't. Not to me. The payments had been on auto debit since day one. Not a single check written. Not a single balance reviewed. Because Jennifer liked systems she didn't have to think about. Preferred to live as if money flowed to her naturally. And I, being the calm placeholder, was the one who kept the lights on while she played CEO in Instagram Reels. She thought I wasn't paying attention, but I'm in insurance. Paying attention is my job. Every quarter, the account statements came in. Every quarter, I printed them, filed them, watched the trend line of her strategic growth plan spiral downward like bathwater in a clogged drain. Inventory bloat, returned merchandise, unsold winter coats in Nashville. It was all there, stacked in cold numbers. But I said nothing. Until last night. Now, I picked up the phone and called the only man I trusted at that bank. Harlan Avery. He used to be one of the old-school loan officers before the suits replaced everyone with tablet-tapping 20-somethings. Harlan had a handshake like a vice grip and a memory like a vault. And he remembered me. James, he said, voice gravelly and slow. Back from the dead? Close, I replied. I'm looking to activate the withdrawal clause on that joint guarantee we signed. There was a pause. You mean section 6.2? Material disrespect or conduct indicating reputational harm. I recited. You sure? She made a public statement that I was a placeholder in front of witnesses. It's been recorded and posted. I'll send you the link. Damn, he muttered. You know I wouldn't invoke it lightly. No, you wouldn't. Another pause. This'll trigger automatic non-compliance, he said. You know that. She's still got almost 3/5 of the balance open. Interest balloons in 6 months. I know, I said. You're about to set the whole thing on fire. I'm just taking my name off the gas line. He exhaled. Come in before noon. We'll draft it. I ended the call and stared out the windshield. The grand opening banner was still drooping above the storefront, sun-faded and partially torn. A metaphor, if I ever saw one. The irony? She thought the business was hers alone. That because she was the face of it, the public would forget the quiet man in the background who took out a second mortgage to fund her fantasy. She never asked how the bank approved her so quickly. Never asked why they didn't demand a business partner with more experience. Because I was the partner. The quiet, invisible one who read every line of every document. The one who inserted that single sentence in a sea of legalese that would one day become the string to pull the whole thing down. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted her to see what calm really meant. I turned the engine over and started driving toward Legacy First Savings. The house wasn't just a place we lived in. It was an asset, a fortress, and, thanks to her oversight, a loaded gun with my hand still on the safety. Not for long. It didn't take long. By the next afternoon, the video was everywhere that mattered. Family group chats, Instagram stories, even a short TikTok edit complete with a laugh track someone layered over it. Her brother Mason had filmed the whole thing during dinner, pretending it was just for memories. Of course, Mason was the type to record everything. Every brunch, every backyard barbecue, every mediocre bar night where he could stand in the corner and pretend he was someone's social media manager. The caption on the video read, Jennifer dropping fire on her B-Day, toast face with tears of joy skull. The clip was 37 seconds long. The first 12 were harmless. Glasses clinking, birthday cake being brought in, someone making a cheesy make-a-wish joke. Then Jennifer, swirling her overpriced Pinot Noir, leaned slightly toward the camera, knowing full well it was recording, and delivered the line like it was rehearsed. "I married him for stability, not excitement," she said, her smile half crooked like it was meant to be humble. "But now that we have both, I can say my calm man was just a placeholder." Mason hooped. Someone off-camera laughed. Her sister-in-law muttered, "Ouch," followed by that fake wince giggle women use when something's cruel but socially tolerated. You could even hear her mother softly clearing her throat like she was about to interject, then thought better of it. I watched it 3 times. Once to absorb it, once to confirm what I heard, once more to let the stillness settle over me like armor. Then I saved the link, downloaded a copy, and forwarded it to Harlan with the subject line: Documentation, Section 6.2, Reputational Harm. No extra words. No editorializing. A few minutes later, I sent the same clip to Marcella, my attorney. She responded in under 10 minutes. Marcella D. 11:43 a.m. This qualifies. Very clearly. There's intent, audience, and emotional derision. And it's recorded. I'll prepare the language for reference in case she contests. Jennifer didn't know it yet, but she had just handed me my legal green light. It wasn't just a birthday joke. It was a public declaration, a social framing of me as less than, said out loud, with emphasis, while surrounded by family who laughed instead of stopping her. A humiliation performance, dressed up as casual wit. But the camera didn't care about tone. The law didn't care about context. She handed me a bullet. I was just loading the chamber. Later that evening, I walked past her in the kitchen. She was on the phone with one of her friends, Kristen, I think, the one who always encouraged her to be fearlessly independent, which was usually code for treat your husband like an obstacle. "I swear, I was just being funny," she said, twirling her hair. "James doesn't mind that stuff. He's too calm to care. He's like a golden retriever. He just absorbs things." I opened the fridge, poured a glass of water, and leaned on the counter. She didn't even pause when she saw me. Just smiled like nothing in the world could possibly go wrong. "He's sweet though," she added. "Predictable. Safe. Boring, but safe." I tilted my head. I wonder how many people will still be laughing when boring stops paying the bills. She blinked. "What?" "Nothing," I said, smiling slightly. "Just thinking out loud." I went back to the study, opened the folder again, reviewed the withdrawal paperwork Harlan had sent over. The form was short, surgical, designed to do one thing: extract my name from the financial skeleton of her boutique empire. Once filed, the loan would trip every trigger it was built on: liability coverage, collateral security, default avoidance. It was all math. Cold, indifferent math. And Jennifer's empire was sitting on an equation that no longer balanced. I looked again at the signed documents from 2 years ago. Her initials, mine, side by side like we were teammates instead of pawns in her self-delusion. She had signed so confidently back then. Barely read the 3rd page. She didn't know what she'd married. She thought calm meant passive. But the truth is, calm is just silent calculation, waiting for the moment someone hands you everything you need to end them. Legally, elegantly, without ever raising your voice. The video had done its job. Now it was my turn. The office was beige. Not metaphorically beige, literally beige. The walls, the carpet, the filing cabinets, even the blinds filtering weak morning sunlight looked like they'd once aspired to white, but gave up somewhere in the late 90s. Legacy First Savings had remodeled the front branch 2 years ago, all glass walls and minimalist furniture for the public areas. But back here, in the belly of the building where real decisions were made, nothing had changed. And I was grateful for that. Harlan was waiting behind a particle board desk, wearing a cheap tie and the same tired expression that had comforted me for decades. He didn't waste time, didn't ask how I was, just nodded and pushed the form across the desk. It was exactly 1 page. No fanfare, no drama, no legal jargon beyond the essential. Notice of Guarantee Revocation, Section 6.2. Guarantor, James T. Winslow. Loan number, 03147. TN, CLX, Boutique. Trigger, reputational harm, documented. Below that, a single paragraph outlining the clause. And beneath that, 1 signature line. My hand didn't shake. I took the pen, signed, dated, slid the page back. "That's it," Harlan said quietly. 36 hours to trigger noncompliance. 48 for the lien to begin formal transition to seizure review. She'll be notified by certified mail and she won't read it. I cut in. He paused. Then she'll feel it. He handed me the carbon copy and tapped the corner of the page. You'll want to keep this. Once the lien activates, the foreclosure timer starts ticking. The bank's lawyers will come knocking fast. I stood, smoothed my jacket. Let them knock. As I left, I passed a young woman in the hallway. In turn, maybe 22, eyes glued to her tablet. She didn't even look up as I walked past. Just another old man signing papers. But that was the irony. What I just signed wasn't just paper. It was detonation. Jennifer didn't understand how the boutique loan worked. Never did. She thought of it like a long leash, something flexible, something she could grow out of. What she never noticed was how tightly that leash was knotted around the house we lived in. Her favorite selling point when she bragged to her friends. 4 beds, wraparound porch, old-growth oak in the back. Totally ours. No, not ours. Mine. The loan had been backed by a blended lien, secured through both her business assets and our shared property, with my guarantee as the stabilizer. Without that, the coverage fell below the required ratio. The bank had no choice. Foreclosure was policy. Jennifer had always believed in illusions of ownership. She called things hers because she decorated them, staged them, hosted parties inside them. But she never built any of it. She never read the terms. Never wondered why the paperwork all came addressed to me. She was too busy picking out new chandelier fixtures and asking if we could replace the mailbox to feel more coastal. She thought ownership was about aesthetics. Ownership, in reality, was about fine print. And Jennifer had mocked the one person in her life who never skipped the fine print. By the time I got back to my car, the digital confirmation was already in my inbox. Legacy's automatic system had logged the revocation and flagged the loan for review. The language was dry. Action item, guarantor withdrawal, immediate compliance review triggered. I started the engine, rolled down the window. The sky was overcast, clouds thick like old cotton. The kind of weather that makes people stay inside, call in sick, avoid eye contact. I pulled out of the lot and took the long way home, past her boutique's warehouse where 2 delivery trucks idled without urgency. The co-owned property agreement had been her idea, back when she still performed the part of a loving partner. Let's be equals in everything, she said. We're building a life together. No, I was building. She was staging it like a showroom. Now the paperwork she ignored had become the script she couldn't escape. And the worst part? It wasn't even revenge. It was math. She violated the one clause that mattered. Made a public mockery of the person whose signature was the only thing propping up her delusion of independence. And now that signature was gone, which meant the house she bragged about was no longer a home. It was a ticking asset bomb. And Jennifer? She didn't even hear it counting down. She woke up late. Jennifer always did on Sundays, claimed it was her one day to recalibrate. I called it sleeping off the cocktails she had with her Friday friends, who all dressed like they were still 25 and talked like networking was a personality. The morning sun had already stretched halfway across the bedroom carpet by the time she shuffled downstairs in her silk robe, hair in a messy bun, muttering something about needing coffee before the world deserved her attention. She didn't even notice the shadow on the porch until the second knock. It was loud, sharp, not the lazy kind neighbors use. This one had authority baked into it. She frowned, peeked out the side window, and froze. Because on the front door, duct-taped in 2 places, was a sheet of heavy cardstock. Bright red letters screamed at her from the top. Notice of default. Below that, the kind of bureaucratic language that didn't register right away. Legal paragraphs, loan numbers, timeline clauses. But it might as well have been written in fire. Her first instinct was denial. This has to be a mistake, she mumbled, yanking the door open like the paper might vanish if she moved fast enough. It didn't. It flapped slightly in the breeze. Heavy, real. She stared at it, heart stuttering, until the words started to sharpen into meaning. Failure to maintain secured guarantor. Lien in effect. Foreclosure process initiated. Her scream wasn't dramatic. Not movie theater loud. It was real. Ugly. Raw. The kind of sound that cracks in the throat and dies before it reaches the edge of the driveway. She ran back inside, slipped on the tiles, nearly fell. Grabbed her phone. Called the only person who ever made her feel untouchable. Daddy. Her voice cracked as soon as he picked up. Daddy, something's wrong, He was groggy. Sunday morning sleep still clinging to his voice. What? Jennifer, it's not even 8. What happened? They put a notice on the door, she said, words tumbling over each other. It says default. Foreclosure. I don't understand. It's James. He did something he had to. There was a long pause, longer than she expected. Then the rage. Full volume. They put a notice on the door? Yes. Jennifer, what did you make him do? She flinched like the words slapped her. I didn't, Dad. I didn't do anything. I mean, I said a few things, but it wasn't serious. I didn't think. He didn't say anything. Oh, he didn't say anything? You think that means he didn't hear you? She was pacing now, barefoot, fingers shaking as she tried to reread the notice like the words might rearrange themselves into something less apocalyptic. He just sat there. He didn't fight me. He never fights me. Because he doesn't have to, her father growled. You don't understand that man at all. He's not weak. He's a fuse you kept lighting without checking where it leads. She was crying now, tears hot and frustrating. It was just a joke. At dinner. I didn't mean it like that. Oh, save that for your lawyer. My what? Jennifer, he said, low and vicious now. Do you have any idea what you've just cost yourself? Cost me. I didn't know, she whispered. You didn't bother to know. She stood in the foyer for a moment after the call ended, holding the phone like it might reconnect if she just stood still long enough. Through the front window, she saw a neighbor walking her dog paws at the sidewalk. The woman looked up, squinted at the red-lettered notice, then quickly averted her gaze and picked up her pace. Jennifer stepped outside and ripped the paper off the door. Her hands were shaking too hard to fold it, so she just balled it up and threw it behind the bushes like that would erase its presence. It didn't matter. The house had been claimed by the system, and systems don't care about tears. She walked back inside slowly, her reflection in the hall mirror catching her off guard. She looked older, disheveled, small. She reached for her phone again, opened the banking app, watched the spinning circle of death load. Finally, it opened. She tapped the mortgage account. $0. Account closed. Foreclosure in progress. She sat on the stairs, her robe twisted at the shoulder, lips parted like she might still find the words to explain all this. But there were none. Because when you treat a calm man like a joke, you never think he's the one with the detonator. Until the blast reaches your door. The first call came in at 9:13 a.m., while Jennifer was still trying to compose an email to the bank using phrases like clarification, temporary misunderstanding, and pending resolution. She hadn't slept. The default notice sat folded and refolded on the kitchen island, each crease angrier than the last. She hadn't dared tell her team yet. Thought maybe, just maybe, she could spin this as a glitch. Banks make mistakes, right? Maybe the system auto-triggered something. Maybe someone could fix it. Her phone vibrated again. She answered without checking. Hi, it's Vanessa, her assistant chirped, voice a little too high-pitched. Jennifer inhaled slowly. Hey, Vanessa. I'm just about to send a note to the... I need to flag something, Vanessa blurted. It's urgent. Kind of a list. What list? Vanessa hesitated. Investor withdrawals. Jennifer froze. Who, she said. Larkin Holdings emailed this morning to confirm they're ceasing forward funding. Brent Salter just left a voicemail asking for his exit clause terms. And Tashida Ross's people said they're reviewing risk exposure and won't be participating in the Q4 bridge round. Jennifer blinked. That's not possible. Apparently, Vanessa continued, voice tightening. They all saw something. Someone posted a photo of the foreclosure notice. There's comments. And hashtags. It's kind of circulating. Jennifer's throat went dry. Okay, she whispered. Okay, just tell them it's being handled. It's procedural, cosmetic, nothing serious. I don't think they'll buy that, Vanessa said quietly. Tashida's rep already forwarded the article from Retail Watchdog. Article. Someone submitted an anonymous tip that your flagship store's tied to a primary residence lien and pending liquidation. Jennifer gripped the edge of the marble countertop like it might anchor her to this dimension. There's more, Vanessa said, each word like a needle. Tim from Logistics says our vendors want advance payment now. They won't deliver the winter line until we pay in full. That's not how we do business. It is now. The call ended. Jennifer stood alone in the silent house. The same one she used to brag about. Neutral tones, natural light, a CEO's retreat. She once called it in a home office tour video. That same video now had sarcastic comments underneath it. Hope the bank likes open floor plans, and nothing says power woman like defaulting in style. Her boutique chain's landlord emailed next. Termination of lease. Due to reputational risk. They cited operational volatility and public creditor instability. She called her lawyer. No answer. Called her father. Voicemail. Then her phone vibrated again, one new text. From James. No words. Just a PDF of the original loan agreement. and one line highlighted in yellow. Guarantor may revoke obligation upon reputational harm initiated by borrower. Jennifer stared at it, stomach folding into itself. He had planned this. He'd known she'd eventually cross a line. He had written the terms, buried them under the veneer of supportiveness. She'd walked right into the trap while calling him weak, because that's what she always did. Mistook quiet for irrelevant. Misread patience as passivity. She opened her email again. Dozens of unread messages now. One subject line stood out. Urgent. Franchise freeze? Another. Supplier breach response. Immediate action required. Her empire was crumbling. And James? He was probably sipping tea. She imagined him in his tiny home office with the view of the back garden she always hated. Sitting in that creaky leather chair she begged him to replace. Holding that ridiculous ceramic mug that said, "Calm is a weapon." And now she understood. The calm wasn't weakness. It was control. And control didn't need noise to win. It just needed timing. And fine print. Jennifer sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open, trying to pretend her hands weren't trembling. The espresso she hadn't touched sat cold beside her. Her robe was still on, now wrinkled and slipping off one shoulder, but she hadn't moved from that spot since 6 that morning. She kept refreshing the same browser tab, her business banking portal, waiting for a miracle that refused to load. The balloon payment was due in 4 days. Her attorney had finally responded via email with the words she dreaded most. "I'm afraid the foreclosure clock can't be paused without proof of compliance or a third-party guarantee reinstatement. The bank has no legal reason to reverse course." So she logged into what she thought of as the fallback, the joint account, the emergency war chest, the $112,000 cushion that had always been there, growing silently while she focused on her brand deals and boutique launches. James had always taken care of that side. Pensions, mutual funds, savings accounts. He was old school, conservative, obsessively responsible. She had counted on that. She logged in with her usual credentials. Access denied. She tried again. "This account is no longer available under this user ID." Her stomach dropped like a stone in ice water. She opened a different app, one that James used for monthly utility payments. That one still let her in, but the balance was $118.44. She tried to transfer anyway. From joint reserves to business operating. Error. Insufficient access. She opened her mouth but couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process. Then she did what any panic-drenched person does. She called her business accountant. Drew Michaels, 28, ex-big firm. Sleek, fast-talking, thinks Excel formulas are a second language. She'd hired him to keep her boutique chain streamlined and scalable. She used those exact words during his onboarding. He picked up on the second ring. "Jennifer," he said. "Good. We need to talk." Her voice cracked. "I was just about to. You didn't tell me the joint account structure had changed." What? "I've been reviewing our liability buffers for the loan exposure. The bank sent over the new ownership petition. Did you know the reserve funds were reclassified 6 months ago? That's not possible. It's already been filed and approved. The account was dissolved. Your husband initiated a restructuring through his trust. It split the finances into his estate and yours. You don't have access. You're not even a beneficiary anymore." She went cold. "I thought it was joint. Legally. Not since March. He filed a Schedule K with a private trustee. You signed it." "What? No. I don't remember signing anything. James listed you as waiving joint claim for tax advantage consolidation. You initialed each page. We pulled the scanned file." She couldn't speak. "Jennifer," he said, voice softening just slightly. "Did you know we're exposed on every front? That the business is technically leveraged against personal assets you no longer control?" She sat very still. "Who authorized this structure?" he asked again, slower this time. She whispered it before she realized she had. "He did." Drew was quiet for a moment. "Then I'd advise you prepare for a full audit. If this goes to court, they'll look at every penny spent on this company. And right now, your paper trail isn't great." The call ended. She didn't hang up, just let the silence build around her like fog. She got up from the table, walked into the foyer, and stared at the shoes lined by the door. 3 of them had been bought on James's card. She remembered telling him she'd reimburse. She never did. Her fingers curled tightly around the phone in her hand. She thought back to those evenings when he came home late, always with some folder tucked under his arm. She mocked him for being a dinosaur, still doing paperwork. "Ever heard of cloud storage, old man?" she used to joke. But those papers? Those nights? He wasn't just keeping the lights on. He was documenting everything. And while she posted filtered photos of her boutique on Instagram and told her followers to never settle for silence, the man she ridiculed had been building a silent wall around his assets. He never touched her money, but she had touched his. And now, even her business accountant had realized it. There was no reserve left to tap, no fallback to reroute. The checking account was empty. And for the first time in her life, Jennifer Winslow, self-proclaimed CEO, digital lifestyle guru, boutique owner, daughter of a man who once owned half of Williamson County, was not just humiliated. She was cornered. The knock was polite, almost elegant. 2 measured taps, then silence. Jennifer, still in a sweatshirt that smelled faintly of dry shampoo and fear, squinted at the woman standing on her front porch. Mid-40s, blazer pressed to perfection, leather folio tucked under one arm, and a smile that said, "I'm about to ruin your day, but I will do it with grace." She didn't look like a bank rep. She didn't look like a lawyer. For a fleeting second, Jennifer let hope spark. Investor? Maybe someone sent by one of the boutique's wealthier friends of friends. A white knight to stop the bleeding. She opened the door. "Hi," the woman said, extending a business card. "I'm Mara Kinley. I'm the foreclosure officer's property liaison." The hope didn't just die, it sank. Jennifer took the card without looking at it. "I'm sorry, what?" Mara smiled again, with the trained neutrality of someone who delivered this line to 100 devastated faces before hers. "I represent Westbrook Property Holdings. We manage the listings on behalf of Legacy First Savings once foreclosure proceedings are formalized. We'll be coordinating inspection, pre-sale photography, and neighborhood compliance checks." Jennifer didn't speak. "We'll be listing this property next month," Mara added, as though she were casually announcing the weather. "You'll be listing," her voice cracked. "You can't just list my house." "It's not your house," Mara said gently. "Technically, it's the bank's now. The deed is encumbered by an unreleased lien. That makes it a secured asset in default." Jennifer stared at her. Her heart was pounding so loudly she couldn't hear the rest. Mara motioned toward the sidewalk. "We'll aim to avoid weekend viewings." Out of respect, Jennifer didn't say another word. She slammed the door in the woman's face. She stood there, frozen, staring at the doorknob. Then the reality set in. It wasn't metaphor anymore. It wasn't just digital notices or banking app glitches. They were taking the house. Her house. The one she had filmed Instagram reels in. The one she described as a crown jewel of Southern chic. The backdrop of her life's carefully curated illusion. Her name was printed on the custom doormat, on the monogram towels, on the fake marble wall decal in the guest bath. But none of that was legally binding. None of that mattered. She picked up her phone and dialed Roger, her lawyer. He picked up on the second ring. "Jennifer." "She was just here," she said, voice shaking. "The rep, from the foreclosure team." Roger was quiet for a moment. "Did she issue a formal document?" "She said they're listing the house." More silence. Then, "I told you James was the linchpin. Without his guarantee, the loan structure collapses. The lien activates. The bank's fully within its rights." "Then fix it," she snapped. "You're my attorney. Fix it." Roger exhaled. "I can't fix a signature that was never forged. I can't reverse a clause you agreed to when you were too busy staging candle photos on granite countertops." She didn't respond. "I've reviewed every page," he continued. James protected himself so methodically it's almost elegant. Jennifer dropped to the floor in the hallway, back pressed to the wall. The phone slipped from her hand and landed screen down on the tiles. She stared across the entryway at the framed engagement photo, her in white lace, him in a gray suit, holding her hand like it was delicate porcelain. She used to think that photo showed a man lucky to have her. Now it looked like a man politely posing next to his future mistake. She curled her knees to her chest and tried not to cry. But she did, quietly, bitterly. The kind of crying that has no sound, just breath and regret. Then came the whispers. Through the open living room window, she heard them. A pair of neighbors passing by. The same ones she used to host wine tastings for. The ones who always complimented her flower arrangements and asked for tips on accent lighting. "I saw a woman with a clipboard on their porch," one whispered. "I told you something was going on. First the notice, now this." Jennifer stayed completely still. "You think it's because of the boutique thing?" "No, it's the husband," the other said. "He's been awfully quiet lately. Always just watching." Jennifer squeezed her eyes shut. But the whispers didn't stop. Because reputation doesn't need legal filings to collapse. It just needs a porch visit. And the sound of your name being spoken by people who no longer envy you. Just pity you. They told her the meeting was urgent. That it was about structural salvage and potential repositioning. which was just corporate lingo for you're almost out of oxygen, but maybe we can build a new tank. Jennifer had clung to that hope like a lifeline, dressing in her best business war outfit, the deep navy blazer, the one with the gold buttons she used to wear during investor pitches when she still felt like she owned the room. She put on mascara for the first time in a week. Foundation, even. Concealer under the eyes. The armor of women who know they're bleeding but refuse to show it. She walked into the glass conference room at the Midtown legal firm expecting to see junior analysts and crisis managers. A whiteboard, maybe some charts, a sympathetic tone with harsh math underneath. Instead, there were 3 people inside. James, her father, and a paralegal sitting in the corner with a recorder already running. James didn't stand. Neither did her father. She paused at the doorway, throat tightening. Her father looked smaller, not physically but dimmed, like someone had turned the contrast down on the man who used to command entire boardrooms with a raised eyebrow. His hands were clasped together tightly. His face was pale. His eyes didn't meet hers. "What is this?" she asked. James nodded toward the empty chair across from him. "Sit." She hesitated, then obeyed. Slowly, a tickle of nausea forming at the base of her spine. James slid a file across the table, a single manila folder. She recognized the handwriting on the label. Her own. She opened it. The first page was a corporate expenditure report. Red annotations circled key line items. $7,860. Southwest Airlines, Nashville to Aspen. Memo, market research trip. Below it, actual purpose, birthday trip for sister. Proof, Instagram photos, dated and geotagged. $2,310. Spa Botanica corporate wellness package. Memo, client gifting. Red annotation, receipt shows 2 guests, Jennifer W. and Ava, sister. There were more. Dozens more. Each one a needle jab. A private indulgence now laid bare as corporate fraud. Jennifer flipped faster, eyes blurring, pages slicing through her fingertips. Every lie, every little borrowed charge she assumed no one would notice. It was all here. Mapped, tracked, cross-referenced. She slammed the folder shut. "This was my company." "No," James said, voice calm, quiet. "It was our liability." Her father shifted uncomfortably, but still didn't look at her. "I made sacrifices," Jennifer snapped. "I built something." "You spent something," James corrected. "And when it got shaky, you mocked the only person who ever kept it from collapsing." She turned to her father. "Dad, you can fix this. Tell them it was just flexible use of funds. I always meant to reimburse." "No, you didn't," James interrupted. Jennifer stared at him. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, hands folded like he was delivering insurance policy terms instead of a funeral. "You mocked weakness," he said. "I made sure calm had consequences." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. "There's no restructuring," he continued. "There's no repositioning. This meeting is a courtesy. The bank will proceed with asset seizure. Your business is already unsalvageable. The vendors have pulled out. Your reputation's radioactive. And your father," he finally looked at the man across from him, "is no longer a viable guarantor." Her father flinched. "I didn't know she'd misused funds," he muttered. "I never would have signed if I had." "You did sign," James replied evenly. "And now your reputation is tethered to hers." The silence that followed wasn't just awkward, it was final. Jennifer looked around the room like it might shift, like someone would step in and say this was all a misunderstanding, a cruel prank to humble her. But there were no white knights, no spin team, no magic pitch, just 3 people, and a mountain of proof that she'd been building an empire out of other people's credit lines and good faith. The kind of empire that turns to dust the moment calm decides it's done protecting you. "You'll destroy me," she whispered. James tilted his head. "No, you did that yourself. I just removed the silence that was shielding you." She stood too quickly, her chair screeching backward. Her legs wobbled, but she didn't fall. Not yet. As she walked out, her father didn't follow. James didn't watch her leave. And the paralegal? She pressed stop on the recorder without blinking. The moving truck hissed as it braked in front of the house, its hydraulic ramp groaning like it resented the weight of what it was about to carry out. Jennifer stood barefoot on the porch, arms crossed, eyes bloodshot. The early fall wind pulled at the hem of her thin sweater, but she didn't feel the cold. Not anymore. Everything inside was tagged, labeled, scheduled. The kitchen was already empty, except for the pot rack she had picked out 3 years ago from a catalog she never paid for. The movers ignored her completely, like she was part of the scenery now. They didn't ask questions, didn't comment. Just removed pieces of a life she once curated like a showroom. They took the mirrored coffee table from the living room. The antique console, she said, added character to the hallway. The velvet settee in the master bedroom, even though she swore James hated it. He did, but he never said a word. Just let it sit there for years, absorbing dust and resentment. Now it was gone. All of it. Anything not bolted to the frame. All under the authority of the lien transfer, signed and notarized. Because technically, she didn't own a damn thing anymore. Not the rugs. Not the custom headboard. Not the restoration hardware dining table she once staged to look candid for her blog. And definitely not the house. The last item rolled down the ramp at 11:27 a.m. A gray armchair with a torn armrest. James's chair. The one she told guests was for the dog because it ruined the aesthetic. He never corrected her. Never argued. Just sat in it anyway. That chair stayed. The new owner had requested it. She didn't understand until the car pulled up. A silver Volvo. Clean. Simple. Paid for, most likely. The woman who stepped out was in her 50s. Slacks, loafers, sensible cardigan. She walked up the driveway slowly, eyes scanning the home like she was seeing something she already owned. She looked like a librarian who also knew how to negotiate a brutal will. Jennifer straightened. "Can I help you?" The woman smiled. Not smug. Not triumphant. Just peaceful. "I'm James's cousin," she said gently. "He offered me the house at a discount. Said it would be good to keep it in the family. I closed on it yesterday." Jennifer opened her mouth, but the words didn't form. Her hands tightened around her elbows. "I used to visit this house when we were kids," the woman added, looking around. "Before it was remodeled. Before it was curated." Jennifer stared. "He gave it to you?" "No," she replied. "He sold it. Legally. Cleanly. The trust now owns the proceeds." She stepped past Jennifer onto the porch, reached into her bag, and pulled out a small envelope. Handed it to her without ceremony. Jennifer hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a single key and a note. Just one line, printed in James's handwriting. "A man's calm isn't weakness. It's patience waiting to be finished." Jennifer read it twice. Then a third time. The woman placed a soft hand on the porch railing. "He said you'd find that. Said you'd understand eventually." Jennifer looked at her. Understand what? That he was never holding on because he was scared. The woman said. He was holding on because he knew exactly how to let go. A robin chirped somewhere in the oak tree. A leaf tumbled down and landed between Jennifer's feet. She looked around. The yard that once hosted influencer parties. The porch she designed from Pinterest boards. The rooms now gutted of everything she called hers. She had laughed once, mocked him, toasted to his so-called weakness in front of family and friends like he was some harmless extra in her personal drama. But now, all she had left was the porch, the key, and the realization that he had never been weak. He had just been patient, and she had given him every reason to finish what he started. Without yelling, without slamming doors, without breaking a single law. Jennifer sat down on the step. Slowly, the Volvo door closed behind her as the woman entered the home. Her home now. Jennifer didn't follow. She just sat, quiet. No cries, no protests, just the sound of wind. And silence. Real silence.